What's going on, you guys? You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review. I'm your host, Garrett, and today this is the Raccoon from Vosteed. And I know you guys are probably sitting there saying, Garrett, you've already reviewed the Raccoon from Vosteed. It was one of your first budget bangers. And you'd be right. I did. This is one of my first budget bangers. And it's a really awesome knife. It just fits in the hand well. It's a good user. It's about the perfect size. And really, there's not really much I have that I don't like about this knife. And the people at Vosteed must have been saying the same thing. And there's been times in my life, and I wonder if there's been times in your guys' lives where you've collected a knife and maybe you had a budget knife that you just fell in love with. And you said, I wish I had this knife just upgraded. I wish they upgraded the steel. I wish they upgraded the scales. I wish they upgraded the lock. I wish they upgraded the hardware and the clip. I wish that I had this knife, but it was just fancy. Well, Vosteed did that. Vosteed went out and took this knife and turned it into this knife. And what we have here is the Raccoon V. What's up, guys? I'm Garrett. You're tuned in to the Cutting Room Knife Review, where I review knives, blades, and all things sharp. Please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more killer knife content. So, with the Raccoon V, they've taken the heart and soul of the original Raccoon and just upgraded all the materials. They've made a few minor upgrades to the knife that just make it more like high-end, a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit nicer, but they kept the knife essentially the same. The spirit of this knife is the same. When you hold it in your hand, you're holding the same knife. You're just holding a knife made out of nicer materials, made a little bit beefier, but not so much beefier that you can't tell, that you can tell the difference. Not right off the bat. Maybe it is going to feel a little bit stronger, but it's not going to feel like a different knife. See, we have a 7.59 inch overall length, which is pretty much the same knife. We have a 3.22 inch overall length, or blade length of the knife, and that is basically the same blade length. Now, we have a little bit bigger of a thickness of the blade. This starts with a 3.5 millimeter stock of steel, and the original Raccoon started with a 3 millimeter. So we have half a millimeter thicker blade stock than we did on the original knife, and we have an M390 blade instead of the 14C28N on this knife. Now, we also have a nice swedge right here that's ground into the blade, just giving it a really nice high-class look, giving it some angles, just making it a really good-looking knife without changing the blade shape itself. It's still a full flat grind. We still have jimping up here in the same spot. It feels and cuts like the Raccoon, just a little bit better, and it's going to be a little bit sturdier. Now, as far as the handle goes, we have a 4.36 inch handle, a 1.1 inch height to the handle, and that's opposed to the 1.1 inch blade height. So 1.01 inches for the handle and 1.1 inches for the blade height. They're very close to the same, the blade being a little bit taller or wider, whatever you want to call it. But they're very much the same, much like the original Raccoon was. Now, the handle width is 0.52 inches, which is a very comfortable handle width. Not much is changing there. Now, what we do have changing in this knife is the materials. We have, of course, milled titanium scales We have titanium hardware. We have titanium pocket clip. In fact, this whole knife is pretty much titanium, with the exception of, I believe, it's the pivot collar. The pivot collar material is stainless steel. We have titanium thumb studs, and of course we have this awesome M390 blade. And Vosteed went and did everybody right, and they heat treated this blade correctly. The heat treatment on this blade is going to be a 62 plus or minus 1 HRC. And we want between 60 to 62 for our HRC. So it being plus or minus 1 means it could go down to 61 or up to 63. But even at the lowest point, we have it right in the middle of the sweet spot for the hardness of M390. And as we know with M390, it can be a dud of a steel or it can be a magnificent steel. It all depends on how you heat treat it. And Vosteed heat treated their knife correctly. They went out and did everybody right with this Raccoon V. They took it and made it so it was not only the optimal heat treatment range, it was at the top of it. So you're going to have a very strong, very durable, incredibly good edge retention M390. It's not going to be a soft or smushy M390 like you can get when you have an HRC rating in the 50s. So that's all pretty awesome from this knife. It's all upgrades in the right materials without trying too much to upgrade the actual knife itself that everybody fell in love with. Now, one of the big differences that we're going to see is going to be in the titanium scales. We have milled titanium scales, which is going to give it nice grip. We're also going to have chamfered edges. So we have chamfered edges to the scales, giving it, kind of a rolled over smooth feeling. We don't have these big blocked off square, not smooth titanium scales. They took their time and did it really nice. They kept in the placeholder for the swap of the clip. So we have an ambidextrous clip, and I just love it when knives, they give you this little piece of, in this case, titanium that holds the place of the spot where you can swap the clip to. I hate it when there's just an open hole in the knife, and they did such a good job by doing that. Now, granted, they did it in the Raccoon. They gave you a placeholder in the Raccoon, a little tab in there. So if they hadn't done that, that would have been very strange, but my hat's off to them just for doing it right. So many knives are higher end, they just leave holes there, and I just hate it. So some of the biggest upgrades, probably the biggest upgrade, and the reason it's called the Raccoon V, is they upgraded this from the top liner lock to the Vosteed's own Vanchor lock. And Vanchor lock actually works a lot like a top liner lock, except it's in the middle of the blade. There is a bar that basically is in your handles here, and it sticks up and holds into the tang of the blade, but it holds in between a piece on the top and a piece on the bottom, rather than just being a top liner lock where it holds on the piece of the top, or being a liner lock where it holds on to this side. It's right in the middle, and this button depresses down and through the middle of it, lowering it and allowing the blade to fall shut. Now, this knife runs on ceramic bearings, and it is actually really smooth. It has some really good action. We have thumb studs for deployment, and then they add the option of having a front flipper. And I really like this about the knife. The original knife does not have a front flipper, and this front flipper has great action to it. They designed it very well. It doesn't stick out all crazy. I don't think it takes away from the look of the knife. I don't think it adds anything to the look of the knife that, like, making it look not like the Raccoon. You don't notice it very much at all, in my opinion, but it is very effective, and it's a very pleasurable flip and flick. So it's very easy to fidget with this knife. I think that the Vanchor lock is a great fidget lock. You can sit here and then just your thumb, it's just easy to use. we can flick with both our thumb stud or reverse flick. See if I can do it with my middle finger, since it bugs all you guys that I use my index finger. I'm trying to start using my middle finger to reverse flick, you guys, just because everybody's bullying me about using my front finger, my index finger, my index finger. And nobody likes it when I do this for some reason, even though it feels more comfortable to me. But you guys are mean, bullying me online, but I don't care. I'll learn how to do it with my middle finger, and I'll make jokes about it until I do. But yeah, this knife is easy to fidget with. It's easy to deploy. It has smooth action to it. It has a bit of a sound to it, but a bit of a shink when it opens, and it doesn't feel like not smooth. It just has kind of a noise to it. It has a decent detent to it. It takes a little bit of pressure to put it out, but once it goes, it goes. I don't think it has a craziest detent in the world. It does drop shut, but it doesn't have the fastest drop shut ever. And I don't find that the Vanchor lock really allows for like a really fast drop shut. Neither does a compression lock really. The Vanchor lock and the compression lock feel very similar to each other. I think the Vanchor lock is probably actually a little bit stronger than the compression lock, just by where it sits in the blade and where it sits in the blade's like tang. If you look right here, that's the slot that the Vanchor lock goes into and holds on. And it just seems like a really solid way to lock your knife into place. And it is very sturdy. It's locked in there going nowhere. The finish on this knife is great. I chose the satin for the blade. It is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. I catch myself doing this a lot to it, but that's what you're going to get with a nice satin blade. Have really nice milling on the scales. They give you a couple different color options on this. I went with the monotone color, just everything titanium or silver, whatever you want to call it. I think it looked the cleanest. You can get one that has a blue button. Then you can get like the more colorful. There's two other variations that are more colorful. But this is the one that I like. I think it looks the most traditional, most like a knife to me. And yeah, that's what I went for. Those are basically the changes to the Vosteed Raccoon V. Not enough that it really changes up the knife from this. Oh, and the weight. I'm sorry, guys. The weight is a little different. 4.64 ounces. So it's a little heavier than the Raccoon V, but it just feels substantial. And like 4.6 ounces isn't a ton for a titanium knife. It's not the lightest knife in the world. Not the heaviest knife in the world either. I think that the substantial feel to it makes it feel like nicer. It feels like a more heavy duty knife. And if it felt too light, I think it'd feel cheap. So I like the weight difference on it. I think that, it's an overall upgrade to everything on the knife. I don't think there's any detriment from the Raccoon V to the Raccoon. I don't think there's anything on this knife that I really was like, man, I wish they would have saved that. I wish they would have just left that on this knife. They didn't do that. They really, I don't know if they listened to any customers complaints or anything about it. Like, this knife is a little bit beefier in a lot of areas, but just a little bit. Like I said before, I keep saying it doesn't take away from the heart and soul of this knife. It feels like this knife just nicer, beefed up, upgraded. If you took this knife and you just made it, a whole, probably two levels, two price point levels above it. So we're working at the $250 price range for this knife. And you actually get a lot for that. I'm going to break into this. What you get with this knife is you get this nice carrying case, which is absolutely awesome. You get stickers, you get a blade, cloth, etc. And you get this really cool commemorative coin. It's a third anniversary commemorative coin. I just think that's, a very nice addition to it. But the fact of the matter is that you're getting a $250 knife that they're giving to you in, a hard case. It's a big touch. It's a big addition. There's a lot of knives that cost a lot more than that. I paid for much more expensive knives than this, but 3 times as expensive as this. That came in a knife taco, you know, um, custom knife factory, you know, like one of my evolutions came in this, you know, like this is what I get from custom knife factory. That's an expensive knife, you know, and to this is like what you get with a Grimsmo knife. This is what you get with a Craig Brown knife. Like you don't even get one of these with a Rosie, you know. So it's not that those are the most expensive things in the world, but it's like a really nice touch, and it's really a big level up. And so I want to compare this knife to some other knives on twofold. I want to compare it size-wise to it so you guys just look at the knife again. And I want to show you some knives that are in the same price point because you're getting a ton of knife out of this knife for the price point. And like the comparison to this knife is going to kind of blow you away. The knife that I compare it to the most, I think is going to blow you guys away. So check this out. All right, so like always, we have the Para 3, the Paramilitary 2. And we're right in between it. Right in between them, just where we thought we'd be. No surprise here. It's a good everyday carry, right in the middle of it. It's medium, and no surprises. You know, we can put it next to the old Raccoon. We know what the old Raccoon is like. We know what it compares to. We've already compared it. We don't need to compare this to a million different knives because, frankly, we know what size this knife is. But what I do want to show you guys is the quality of knife that's in the same price point as this, because $250 is a really weird price point in knife land. Normally we have like over $300, like all titanium knife, all titanium scales, titanium backspacer, high quality lock, M390 blade. It's a Chinese knife, but Vosteed's a name brand. Now here's the weird thing. Vosteed's a budget name brand. So like, where do we go with this, right? Because like we have like non-budget name brands like We Knives, where they have a Civivi as their budget brand, and We Knife isn't their budget, where you're going to see a knife like this, right? And you have CPM 20 CV, which is basically M390. You have titanium bolsters, carbon fiber scale, right? Okay, it's a bigger knife. The Guthrie's a bigger knife, but it's a high-end Chinese knife. And we're looking at $100, or actually more than $100 more. We're looking at like $370-ish for this knife. $360, $370 for this knife. Okay, but it's a well-known high-end Chinese brand. All right. So that's pretty out of this price point. When you're saving over $100, like that's a big savings. And I would say 250 really isn't, you know, in that the high-end Chinese or OEM-ish, you know, range is $300 to $450. And once you get to $450, and you're going to start getting into things like Hinderers and Demcos, where you're getting into high-end American knives, basically. You're getting into like production American knives, and at that point, you know, you're not competing with the Chinese knives anymore. But like the high-end Chinese knives are going to be in the, you know, $300 to $450 range at the most, maybe $425. You know, we're talking Knoll knives, Chavez. You know, Chavez is a good example. M390 blade, titanium scales. We have a kickstop on this one. So, you know, this is a very high-end Chavez with the chisel blade. This is about a $400 knife. The materials aren't any different than this knife. You know, the HRC on this M390 is no different than that knife. They're just working on a name. Chavez isn't a budget knife brand name. Vosteed is kind of a budget knife brand name, but really there's not a ton of difference in materials, and they're both made in China. Okay, so Then what you have is you've got knives that are going to be in that $200 to $300 range, and you're looking at Cancepts, right? So this is the Cancept Tarkin, and we have a titanium body. We have a 20 CV blade, which is M390, just made by Crucible. We have a frame lock. We have a titanium clip, right? Flat grind, good action, front flipper, really killer knife. But Cancept is kind of known for being a sub $300 titanium knife. It's kind of a budget, high-end steel, titanium scale brand. It has great action. This is actually a really good knife. I got this knife for one of my sons. He absolutely loves it. I think it's a killer knife. When I bought it for him, I didn't think it was going to be as nice as it was. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. It's a little plain Jane, but the front flipper's a little bit on like the gaudy side to me. I think it sticks out a bunch, but it works really well. And it looks great when it's open. And this is I don't know the exact price of this knife. I bought it on the secondhand market, but I mean, Cancepts are going to be going for between $200 and $300. I don't think this is above a $300 Cancept. Granted, some Cancepts do get into like the $320 to $350 range, but you're comparing. These are two very good comparisons of knives. Vosteed's kind of getting there where it's competing with these Cancepts, which have been around for a minute, and a lot of people love them. Now, the next knife that we have that's in that like $230, $250 price range is we have the Devo Fireball. Well, the Devo Fireball, we have an S90V blade. Okay, so that's really nice. We have fat carbon for the scales, and I'm still not sure what this backspacer is. I feel like it's aluminum. I don't feel like this is titanium. Maybe it is titanium. Let's pretend that it is titanium. But you're still going to have a stainless steel liner lock in it. And I really don't feel like the materials of this Devo Fireball stand up to all the materials that are put into this knife. And we just have a traditional liner lock. It's got good action. It's got great action, actually. But it's not a Vanchor lock. There's just a lot that's really put into this knife. And these are $20 difference between these two knives. I like Staza's Fireball, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like they've given you so much with this Vosteed. I just really feel like they've given you just so much as far as materials go into the knife. Like it's amazing. When you compare it to, let's say, a Spyderco, right? Let's compare the knife to a Spyderco. Well, we have in the similar price range, we've got this Smock, which is a really cool knife. Really cool knife. We have CPM crew wear for the steel, so it's probably a little bit nicer of a steel than the M390, but not crazy. We have a really nice hollow grind on it. We have aluminum scales, stainless steel liner, and stainless steel hardware. And we have basically the top liner lock. We have a button activated compression lock, right? We have a rear flipper on it. Absolutely killer knife, but it's aluminum. And I believe that this is more expensive than this knife. I believe it's a $270 knife. I could be wrong, but I think that's where this one sits. Now you're paying for Spyderco, even though this is a Taiwanese Spyderco. It's not an American Spyderco, so we can't call it an American knife. Spyderco does have a bigger name than Vosteed. It's going to charge a little bit more, but once again, you're not getting the titanium scales. You're getting a very similar lock, both very nice steels. I had to upgrade this clip back here. You're getting a lot for this knife. The materials are just out of this world. Really nice for this knife. Then you go into Benchmade, which is $230. You get this Osborne 940, and you got S30V steel. You got G10 scales. You have a axis lock, which is a crossbar lock. You got stainless steel, everything else. Action that is nothing to write home about. It's been out for 20 years. They still charge $240 for this freaking knife. You can't. This doesn't hold a candle to this knife. It's a Benchmade, so it costs a ton. But it just costs a ton because it's a Benchmade. Like, it's made in America. Okay, cool. But this knife just is so much more as far as materials go than this. It's just so much nicer than this knife. This knife is light, I guess. But you're not gonna. You cannot convince me that this is as nice of a knife as this. The only thing it's got on it is got this Benchmade logo on it. That's the only reason it costs that much. If Vosteed made this knife, it would cost you $79. I mean, the steel is maybe a little bit nicer than that, being S30V, but it's not. You pay so much for the name of this, and you're getting so much for this. And I don't feel like Vosteed's this no-name brand anymore. And one of the coolest things about this knife is, you know what, guys? You know what knife this reminds me the most of? This is gonna be crazy, but with the blade shape and just the overall shape of this knife. Now, it's not as light as this knife, and it's not nearly as good of action as this knife. And maybe I'm out of my mind here, but it reminds me a lot of the Brown Mini FSD. It just does. The where you hold it in your hand, where the blade is, how thick the blade is. It's a drop point. They don't have the same belly on them, but the cutting experience and stuff is like, it's pretty close. And I was trying to find another knife that was shaped like this that I could compare it to, and like, it's a very unique shape. It doesn't look like it'd be that unique of a shape, but it is. I don't have any knives that really look like this. And then I just recently got this knife, and I was like, huh, it's like, it's a hollow grind, it's magna cut, it's a brown knife. It's worth almost 4 times what this knife is worth, but it's a much nicer knife. But it feels in the hand where the knife is and how it cuts and like what you're doing with it. It was the closest thing I could find to this. And I just thought that was kind of wild. And maybe I'm crazy. But you look at the blades. Like, look where the flat edge is. Look where the belly rolls up. It's not quite the same, but look at the handles. Like, tell me I'm crazy. There's a little bit more of a cutout for a finger here, but like, look at the blade to handle ratio. Like, it's not a mini FSD, you guys, but it's a really cool design, and they're remarkably close. Like, there's some similarities there that just are, kind of blew my mind. That when I pulled out all my knives and I was trying to compare this knife, that I wound up with that knife in my hand, that I was like, dang, this is the closest thing I got. So this knife is kind of an enigma. It lives in this area of knives where it's still a freaking deal. $250 for this knife is just out of this world a good deal. This is just a great knife for the price. And Vosteed is just killing it. Like, they've made a absolute great knife for this price. This is a great knife for $65. It's an amazing knife for $65. It's so much knife for $65. And then they went out and they made a luxury version of it. And it's like, they gave you so much knife for $250. Now, $250 is a lot more than $65. But when you compare it to what you get with other knives, they're still giving you a deal and a steal, and it's put together so well. And like I said before, it keeps the soul of the Raccoon. And I gotta just like love them for that they didn't change the heart and soul of this knife. They just made the knife luxury. It's the luxury version of the same knife. And my hat is off to Vosteed. They did a great job. Absolutely great job. And I don't think they could have done better. I hope that they keep it up. They have the PSYOP coming out where it's the upgraded steel, upgraded titanium scales, and they basically did the same thing with the PSYOP. And I hope that they can keep doing this with their knives, because if they can offer a knife in this category and in this category, and they can keep like the heart and souls of the knife the same, they're going to be such a well-rounded company and give 2 different demographics of people the option to buy the same knives, or even like the same demographic of person, or the same person, the ability to get one knife and then grow into a nicer knife, or buy the nicer knife and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get this knife because I'm going to thrash on it. And I love this knife so much. I love using it, but I want to baby it a little. I don't want to use it for this nasty work I have coming up. So I'm going to get this knife and just beat the absolute shit out of it and not care. And if I need a new one, I'll go buy a new one. And I just, my hat's off to Vosteed. They did a good job in so many different ways. And this is such a win of a knife. I am absolutely just gabsmacked about this knife. It's just, they did it. They did a great job. It's a win, a complete win. And I'm stopped babbling about it at that point because there's nothing more to say. They just knocked it out of the park. So great job, Vosteeds. My hat's off to you. This is the Raccoon V, and I am Garrett for the Cutting Room Knife Review. Until next time, you guys, stay sharp.